Princess's Guide to Surviving Nightmare Night by Another Random. Ah, I see. Celestia, in fact, did not see. First, in the literal meaning of the word, she did not see, at least not clearly. There was a magic shield in the way. Golden, shimmering barrier stood between her and Nightlight and Twilight Velvet. It was not there for security reasons. Well, at least not for the usual security reason a princess might want to use a shield. Suddenly, Nightlight sneezed. Phlegm and spit landing on the shield, where they began bubbling and sizzling until they vanished into nothing. "Sorry," Nightlight muttered. Celestia gave the stallion a sympathetic smile. At least she hoped it was aimed at him. It was hard to tell with the shield in the way. She had to modify the spell heavily to not let anything in. The result was several inches thick wall of pure magical power that was see-through only by the barest definition of the word. The shield was pure improvisation on her part. Celestia, who while immune to sickness was still fully capable of being a carrier, and right now, where almost every pony was on holiday to go to the festival, it fell to her to care for Twilight and Spike until her parents got better. And Celestia would not risk catching the flu from her. Thus, the overpowered shield blocking her field of vision. But there was a second thing she did not see, this time more metaphorical. When Celestia got the message, Nightlight and Velvet wanted to speak to her. Celestia thought it would be the usual fare, probably about Spike or Twilight leaving something behind. It was almost tradition by this point. Though not forgetful, Twilight had too many checklists to forget. The filly often failed to prioritize anything other than books. Not that it mattered that much. Twilight and Spike spent too much time in the palace, and they had all the essentials in their rooms already. More often than not, it was the little keepsakes and favourite toys that they had to go back for. So that was what Celestia was expecting. Twilight or Spike to forget their favourite blanket or doll. Not unusual in itself, with the exception that Celestia chose to make the trip herself, to not risk any pony else getting sick. But Velvet and Nightlight didn't want to talk to her about Twilight forgetting something, though she did leave Smarty Pants behind. The doll now tucked under Celestia's wing. No, they blindsided her with something else entirely. "You're really our only option," Twilight Velvet managed to say despite having to pause to blow her nose 7 times before she got the sentence out. Leaving a scattered field of soaked tissues in her wake. "And you want me to take Twilight and Spike trick-or-treating?" Nightlight finished, earning a glare from his wife for interrupting the princess. Velvet's glare would probably be much more effective if Velvet could go without sneezing for longer than 6 seconds. As it was, Nightlight, half delirious from fever, simply shrugged. Celestia sighed. That was the issue. The Nightmare Night. "We obviously can't," the very sick Twilight Velvet said. "And poor Shining is even worse off than we're—" "I still don't understand where we got feather flu," Nightlight said, voice slurred and slightly feverish. "None of us even have feathers." "Shining probably caught it from some pony in the barracks and gave it to us," Velvet said, then paused. "How is Cadence, by the way?" "Still recovering," Celestia replied easily. The feather flu did not go easy on the poor dear. Cadence getting also sick was poor timing. The younger Alicorn did not have the same immunity Celestia had, at least yet, and was bedridden for the next few days until she stopped being infectious. "So will you take them?" Velvet asked, trying and failing to drink some sort of herbal tea without spilling it all over the sofa, table, herself and her husband. "It would be a great help," Nightlight said, leaning on his wife. "Spike was so excited to go trick-or-treating for the first time, and now—" He trailed off. Celestia winced. Normally she would gladly take on any opportunity to spend more time with Twilight and Spike, even if it was only to keep them from catching featherflu from their parents. Young Twilight was a joy to be around with her ever-inquisitive nature, and Spike was simply adorable. Celestia only so rarely got to spend genuine free time with them, outside all the lessons in school. But this was that night. Celestia sighed. Raven Inkwell. The seneschal of Her Highness, Princess Celestia, could be described as many things. Dutifully, stoic, unflappable.
No, bad Spike.
Twilight yelled at the drake.
Don't eat those.
And currently losing her mind. The tiny dragon spit out the object previously lodged in his maw. With great speed, it went on its parabolic arc, hitting a target with accuracy that would make an experienced marksman jealous. Said object was a stapler. A stapler hitting Raven in the face, her glasses specifically, which was lucky because she would otherwise have the joy of having her eyes stapled shut. The mostly barren room Raven called her office was suddenly filled with the noise of patients running low. It sounded suspiciously like the gritting of teeth into dust with only the force of one's own jaw.
I'm sorry, Miss Inkwell.
Twilight apologised sheepishly, picking the dragon, who blew Twilight a raspberry in response, in her magic.
Spike is just cranky because...
You promised, Spike wailed. You promised me we will go trick-or-treating together. Twilight hushed Spike, though Raven could not help but notice the fact that Twilight herself looked close to tears.
Spike,
Twilight said gently.
You know why we can't. Mum and Dad are sick.
It's not fair, Spike whimpered. Raven's shoulders slumped. She was not trained nor equipped to deal with this. The doors into the office opened. A large figure slowly crept in.
Princess!
Twilight, with Spike in tow, bolted for the Alicorn, where Spike promptly decided to attach himself to Celestia's leg with a hug, while Twilight skidded to a stop. Hello, Twilight. Spike, Celestia said, smiling. Then she looked more closely at the decimated office. Raven, I do hope they were not too much trouble. They were manageable, Your Highness, Raven allowed, pulling the staple out of her glasses. But I do have to hurry now. My sister is waiting. Barely, almost impossibly to notice, Celestia's smile wavered. Ah, I see you're keeping up with your tradition. Raven gave a nod. She is persuasive when she wants, Raven said. Watching scary movies together doesn't really appeal to me, but it seems season appropriate. It's good for you to relax sometimes, Raven, Celestia said. You work far too hard. Some pony has to, Your Highness, Raven said, breaking into her own almost unperceivable smile. Scheduling and paperwork won't do themselves. Of course, Celestia said. Thank you. I don't know what I would do without you. Struggle, obviously, Raven deadpanned. She looked at the clock on the wall. Time for me to run. Goodbye, Miss Raven, Spike pipped up, followed by Twilight's nervous wave. Goodbye, and do enjoy your time off, Raven. I shall endeavour to try, Your Highness. Raven got up to make her leave. She stopped briefly at the doors, turning towards the two children. And I'm sorry you can't go out tonight.
It's okay.
Twilight said, her expression that it was not.
There will be another next year, right?
But that's forever away, Spike exclaimed. Celestia trailed off, then gulped. I actually planned to take you trick-or-treating, she finished. Twilight squeaked. Spike's eyes went wide. Raven simply stared. Are you sure, Your Highness? Raven said unsurely. It's that night. Princess Celestia gave the short mare a look. I'm aware, Celestia said curtly.
Oh!
Twilight gasped.
I have to get my costume ready.
Me too, Spike called out after her.
What are you going as, Princess?
Twilight suddenly asked. Sorry?
It's a tradition.
Twilight said with all the authority the adorable 11-year-old could muster.
Every pony has to go in costume.
I'm a knight, Spike affirmed seriously. It's going to be a surprise, Celestia said mysteriously, already panicking inside, trying to come up with something. Maybe my old armour? I don't think I took it out of storage since I fought Sombra with... She frowned. Or maybe rather not. The old thing probably doesn't fit anymore anyway. Ready to go, Celestia said to Twilight, the filly making some last-minute changes to her costume. She went as Clover's theorem of perpetual arcana. She had to add more pluses to her hat. Spike, true to his word, dressed as a knight in cardboard armour and with a surprising amount of realism too. The tassets and articulation were on point, though the gorget was a bit oversized in Celestia's humble opinion. It even had a fully functioning lance rest. If Celestia would hazard a guess, a certain royal guard in training probably helped to construct it before he became sick. In comparison, her own costume was a little threadbare. Her costume consisted of 2 parts. First was a memento of hers, ancient relics gifted to her by a friend, a blue cloak and a hat, decorated with bells and stars and crescent moons. She would be afraid that her keepsakes would get damaged, but the whole get-up was so heavy with preservation, enchantments and protection charms that it was probably more durable than her armour. She did try it on for old time's sake. It did not fit. The other part of her costume was a badly made fake beard. It was simply some cotton held in place by a piece of wire and an inordinate amount of glue.
Princess!
Twilight exclaimed excitedly, then stopped in confusion.
Who are you going as?
Starswell the Bearded, Celestia answered with a smirk. He was a mentor of mine, and an excellent magician.
He taught you?
Twilight exclaimed.
He had to be the best mage to ever live.
Though he could get too grouchy at times, he never did have a sense of humour. Princess Celestia lifted both of them onto her back, trotting down the street, surrounded by staring parents and giggling bowls. Twilight attempted to bury herself into Celestia's bellowing mane and hat, while Spike grinned and enjoyed the ride and the sights. He was the only dragon in Canterlot. He was used to stairs by now. She stopped before a door to one of the more wealthy noble houses near the castle district. She hummed to herself. Twilight, can you remind me what is the procedure for Nightmare Night? Celestia asked. I'm afraid I was an adult when trick-or-treating became customary and never participated myself before. Spike giggled from under the visor of his cardboard armet. You're old! That I'm, Celestia said with a smile.
We ring the bell, then we say trick or treat.
Twilight explained. Then candy! Spike exclaimed, lifting his tiny fist and cardboard cutout sword high.
Yes, then they give us candy.
Twilight finished with a serious nod. Of course, Celestia said. That is the most important part. She rang the bell and waited. The doors opened. An elegant mare dressed up as a cat, ears and whiskers included, opened the door.
Trick or treat!
Both Spike and Twilight hollered. The mare laughed, reached into a bag of candy with a hoop to disperse the prize. You're both adorable. She then looked up, saw the fake beard and wizard cap and the billowing rainbow mane, horn and wings. Froze, blinked about several times, and then started to shake. Honey, are there more ponies at the door? A stallion in a clown costume and cartoonishly oversized pants stepped into the foyer, laughing to himself. He then also froze and stared. Good evening, Lord Fancy Pants, Princess Celestia said easily. Trick or treat? She turned to Twilight. Did I do it right? She asked the purple filly, practically vibrating with excitement. Some pony will have an easy time getting settled to bed tonight. If she continues like this, she'll be all tuckered out soon. Yes! Twilight said with a laugh. Candy, Spike piped up ever so helpfully. Your Highness, Fancy Pants finally recovered enough to form sentences. What a surprise! Star Swirl, Celestia interrupted. I'm Star Swirl the Bearded. Fancy Pants blinked, turned to his wife, then shrugged. Of course, he said. How foolish of me. Candy was given, bowls were appeased, all was well. So far, so good. Do not eat your candy now, Celestia admonished Twilight slightly. You will get sick before bed. The filly, staring at her candy hoard, pouted but nodded. After the first house, well, a villa really, the others in the neighbourhood followed quickly. Within the half an hour it took them to walk down the Palace District, Spike and Twilight had their baskets filled almost to full. Celestia had a sneaking suspicion that ponies were a smidgen more generous with her around, but such things were almost unavoidable. At first Celestia thought about flying down to Lower Canterlot and avoiding the Palace District and the nobles within its lavish townhouses altogether. But that would take time, and Celestia was a little afraid the foals would explode from impatience. And if the nobles wanted to be generous with her charges to impress her, well, who was she to deny them? It made Twilight's and Spike's happy, and that was what mattered tonight. The problem was, of course, not every pony was so generous when she wasn't around. Get out! Screamed Lady Blueblood. Get out before I call the guards! A gaggle of terrified foals, maybe only a few years older than Twilight, ran from the manor, some ditching parts of their costumes for greater speed as they escaped the premises. But you let all the others in! One of them, a colt dressed up in a clearly homemade pirate costume, stuttered out. Why us? I'll not have some common rabble sullying my garden! Celestia frowned. It was easy for Celestia to see why ponies from the other, less well-off parts of Canterlot would make their way up to go and try their luck at gaining a greater prize from those wealthy and showing it off. But sadly for Celestia, who also had an easy time seeing how certain nobles would take issues with ponies outside their closed community coming here. She took a deep breath. Celestia could understand not wanting to participate in the holiday. Sweet ancestors, she knew. For how long had she avoided anything to do with this terrible reminder of that night? It made her blood boil, literally. The very fact that her little ponies would turn this dark day into a celebration of how she banishing her little sis. Yes, Celestia could understand not wanting to participate, but Lady Blueblood was not refusing to participate. She was simply very choosy about who else should. And she was using her power and status to do it. Power and status given to her by grace of Celestia's own crown, and she was using it to bully foals. And that would not stand. Twilight, Celestia said, do remind me, what is it they say when we ring the doors?
Trick or treat, Princess.
And what exactly does the trick option entail? Twilight trailed off.
I don't know.
I think I would like to find out, Princess Celestia said, horn lighting up. Hold on tight, we shall be taking a little detour. My lady, the evicted trick or treaters are back. Lady Blueblood raised an eyebrow at her butler. Well, kick them out, the noble mare said. She had quite enough of the insolence. First her staff was asking for a day off, denied of course, and now rabble was invading her domicile as if it belonged to them. The butler opened his mouth as if to say something, then closed his mouth again. I don't think I can. Lady Blueblood, the seventh, sighed. Useless, she sneered. The mare stomped her way to the entrance, kicking the door open. I'm calling the guards, she shrieked. Do you have any idea who I'm? Blue Blood looked up. Good evening, Princess Celestia said, her smile wide and sharp as a knife. The group of foals all standing behind her, staring in a mix of apprehension and awe. Your Highness, Lady Blueblood said. We weren't expecting you. We can... Trick or treat? The noble mare blinked. What? Trick, Celestia said easily. Or treat. The princess tilted her head. Something in her eyes changed. Lady Blueblood began to sweat. Her breath hitched. That's your choice, your two options, yes? The princess said pleasantly, as tradition dictates. I'm sorry, there must have been some misunderstanding. Now, the princess lifted her hoop, silencing the noble mare. Correct me if I'm wrong, I seldom participate in such things. My perspective may be skewed. Celestia smiled at her. It was a smile that cut. But you already made your choice, right? Lady Blueblood gulped. So, let me ask again, Celestia said, leaning down until she was eye level with Lady Blueblood. Trick or treat? That was awesome! My bag is full. I didn't know toilet paper could do that. Thank you, Star Swirl. Celestia laughed at the foals running around her, leaving the now improved villa and its apologetic owner behind. I was happy to assist my little ponies. The foals scurried along, Twilight sighing a sigh of relief as they vanished. Celestia could only grimace at that. One day, Twilight would need to learn to socialise with her peers. Every pony needs friends. Celestia knew well what isolation and loneliness could lead to.
Princess?
Twilight said, yawning. The night did go on pretty long. Covering the whole villa in magically conjured toilet paper did take some time, after all. Yes, Twilight, she said, amused. We still need to make the offering. It did not take long to find one. The shrines popped up around Canterlot every year for the festival. Ponies would make a sacrifice of candy so Nightmare Moon would leave them alone and ungobbled. This one was not very big, a marble cube with small statue of smirking Nightmare Night on it. Some pony lit candles in a circle around it. There were piles of offered sugary things strewn all over already. If she ignored the sweets, it almost looked like a tombstone. She hated them, these shrines. The insult baked into the very concept, as if her sister would ever eat bowls. She wasn't a monster, she wasn't. And they never captured how she looked right. It was always a snarling, smug caricature of the real thing. The face of those statues irked her the most. They never captured the anguish, the sorrow, the anger, the hate. Maybe it was for the best. Twilight and Spike fell asleep on her back. A few minutes back, the street became more and more empty by the minute as the remaining trick-or-treaters retreated home. She was alone. Celestia walked towards the statue. Hello, Luna. The alicorn smiled sadly. The statue stayed in place as statues do, staring into nothing. Cold stone eyes, cold stone snarl. Cold stone. Celestia looked on her back at the snoring foals. I think you would have liked them, Celestia said fondly, if only you got to meet them. She sighed. The statue stayed, unmoving and still, not dead, because you have to live to die. This was stone. It never lived to die. This is silly, Celestia said suddenly. I'm taking to the air. You are not here. You're gone. So why I'm... Celestia stopped. She took a deep breath. I'm sorry, she said again, as she always said this night for the past almost 1,000 years, an offering of her own. I'm sorry, sister. Celestia gave a bitter laugh. Her horn lit up, taking a little from both baskets of sweets. It took a few moments to find the right things. Dark chocolate, Luna always liked bittersweet things, never really going for the more sweet options, making most of the offering even more ironic. I miss you, Luna. I love you, and I'll always miss you.
Princess?
Twilight whispered. Shh, Twilight, I'm taking us home.
You're making the offering?
Twilight mumbled, eyelids heavy, consciousness somewhere between the waking world and the dream one. Yes, Celestia said simply.
She looks lonely.
Twilight said, looking at the statue. She was. Celestia looked back. Twilight was snoring peacefully again. She smiled at the foal, then met the unfeeling statue's gaze for the last time. Good night, Luna. Above her, the full moon shimmered.
Shadows dance, the stars awake. Celestia steps through moonlight take. With twilight close and young spike too, in costumes bright of wizard blue. Through the winding streets they go, past whispers soft where secrets flow, and haunted eyes in windows peer, for Nightmare Night is drawing near. Shadows call on Luna's night, candles flicker, pale moonlight. She walks alone where memories lie, for Luna's lost beneath the sky. A noble's house with walls so high, where selfish hearts do tricksters spy. Celestia's laugh, a wizard's spell, turns pride to fear, oh what a swell. And in her steps the fools all cheer, as Lady Blue Blood quakes in fear. With magic bright and falls in tall, she shows them tricks they didn't know. Shadows call on Luna's night, candles flicker, pale moonlight. She walks alone where memories lie, for Luna's lost beneath the sky. By statue stone and offering sweet, dark chocolate lay at cold stone feet. Celestia sighs, her whispers low, for Luna lost so long ago. Good night, dear sister, soft she cries, as little twilight sleepy sighs. Bring comfort near, yet tears still flow, in Luna's light and starry glow. The moon above, the beacon bright, watches over the silent night. A tale of sorrow, hope and fright, the magic cast on Nightmare Night. Shadows call on Luna's night, candles flicker, pale moonlight. And as we gather young and old, we share her tale so dark and cold. For though she's lost, she's still held dear. On Nightmare Night we feel her near.
It's the Mr. Cody Fiction channel. Mystery, also available as a podcast on Spotify. Funny and easy logo is the story, by the way. Fiction. Fiction. make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. You can also become a member for early access and exclusive content. Only $149 a month.